And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Smasho here, coming at you with the most detailed solar imagery and comprehensive space weather you'll find anywhere in the world. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. So here's the sun yesterday plus today in 3 wavelengths. By the way, we've got a major earthquake swarm here around Fiji, north of New Zealand. 3 major quakes coming in rapid succession. They're all at extreme depth also. We'll get to it here briefly first. The SDO intensity gram. We've got at least one new named sunspot group down here. And it looks like it's weakened since yesterday. Besides that, things looking mostly stable here. A little bit of umbral growth ahead of this group up in the north. Here's a colorized magnetogram that should help to clarify things. So far, this group down here, just a plage. We don't see any umbrae down there, so no apparent sunspots in that area at the moment. So before we get to earthquakes, let's look at volcanoes briefly. Abiko's erupting, producing a 10,000-foot ash plume. Not sure on Suwanosejima. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 210, 21,000-foot ash plume. Fuego in Guatemala, flight level 150, 15,000-foot ash plume. 20,000-foot ash plume as Sangay explodes. Revenador also exploding, 16,000-foot ash plume. Flight level 160 over Ecuador from Revenador. And Sabancaya down in Peru exploding. Don't pole vault the caldera, that could be unhealthful. The emissions are producing a 24,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. It is a flight level 240 over Peru. And let's look at earthquakes. Current seismic level very high. No apparent tsunamis produced from the series of 3 6+ magnitude quakes we saw near the Fiji Islands. So check it out. These 3 came in just as we did show prep here. Those are a 6.8. Then a 7.0, and then a 6.6, all happening within about half an hour of each other there, about 35 minutes of each other, near the Fiji Islands. There, if we zoom out, you can see they are west of the Lau Ridge, all at extreme depth, all at over 620 kilometers estimated depth. Those came in at 9:38, 9:51, and 10:14 Universal Time this morning. Let's scroll up the list here to see what else has been going on. Cuba had a 5.0, largest quake in the Caribbean for a long time. Philippines had a 5.2. So big seismic uptick there, the most movement certainly deep in the crust. Over 600 kilometers deep there. Not far from Fiji. Also Nepal had a 5.6. So big seismic uptick there since yesterday. Also a 5.1 near the Peru-Ecuador border. Italy had a 5.6. And a 5.0 at Japan. Again, a 6.8, a 7.0, and a 6.6 all south of the Fiji Islands there, all at extreme depth over 620 kilometers. The 7.0 at nearly 666 kilometers depth. And let's get back to space. Here's the last 24 from SDO in the house favorite wavelength, 171 angstroms. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux has dropped a little bit to 132 solar flux units. Let's put that in context. There's the 1-year graph of the radio flux. It's the black line, the most proportional data set we have to sunspot number. And if you're interested in that, check it out. There is the radio flux, and above it is the sunspot number on the Space Weather Enthusiast's dashboard. You can see how proportional those indeed are, both historically and during this solar cycle. NOAA not forecasting any sort of space weather storms here. Just a brief period of geomagnetic unrest tomorrow. Thursday, November 10th. Continuing on to Earth's magnetic moment from space, here is the last 4 hours. The space weather modeling framework model here in nanopascals. That is magnetohydrodynamic pressure. We show it daily on the channel, as the old data is apparently not accessible. We're hoping that University of Michigan puts up a browse data tool at some point. Once again, that's the last 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space to about 12 Earth diameters. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. This scale, the units on this scale here are nanotesla magnetic flux density. Things are rather geomagnetically calm for the past 4 hours. Next, the planetary K-index, a measurement of global geomagnetism. Again, geomagnetically calm here. 2.67 is the KP index, the planetary K-index. KP 2.67 is at the moment. And here we are looking at the real-time solar wind. So somebody asked me on Twitter, was that Space Weather Live? Thanks for tweeting at us about, I believe it's about this spike right here. And that is a change in instruments. If you look down here, you can see that it's switching from the Discover to the ACE. Also right here, switching from the Discover to the ACE, or from the ACE to the Discover, actually, in that moment. And keep in mind, those spacecraft are orbiting Lagrangian point 1. They can be in quite a different environment there. They're not at the exact same place. And Lagrange point 1 is a fairly large gravitational equilibrium point that they orbit at about 1 million miles from Earth. So there can be a quite different environment there, as you can have more plasma at the one than the other one. You can have, higher density at the one location than the other one, different plasma temperatures, a different space weather environment at each of the craft. What you do notice is that there's no major shift in the magnetic fields there, so it's not looking like a significant event. You can see the BTBZ here showing a fairly solid signal for both the spacecraft, an indication that this is just a local situation and not any kind of an anomaly or anything major. Current conditions are very diffuse solar wind here at barely 1 proton per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed here getting back to nominal levels, only 364 kilometers per second. Again, it's a calm condition as far as the solar wind. Ghost magnetometers here showing lower highs and lower lows. Also a tighter range there in the GOES magnetometers for the past 24 hours. That's the last 3 days as measured by the GOES 16 and GOES 17. Here's some more magnetic data, and we can see the sunspot cycle here is finally getting ready to progress in earnest. As you can see, the north solar polar field there shrinking away from the north heliographic pole. An indication that the field migration is continuing here. It's taking its good old time leaving the north polar region. So that's the most important thing. At the moment, Earth lies in a South Pole current sheet. Nothing to write home about there. Here's our line of sight plot. Solar B field in blue. For your new viewers, that's the field that goes through the magnet. Solar polar fields in red for south and green for north. And let's move to coronal holes. What evil lurks in the depth of coronal holes? Well, they're solar low pressure systems. And stellar low pressure systems are so low that there are protons blasting out of those coronal holes at high speeds. Yes, low pressure systems affect your planet. When your local star has them pointed toward you, those are radio jets also, by the way. Those proton fountains. Areas where there is not a lot of plasma in the corona, hence the term coronal holes. So these are South Pole oriented coronal holes. There is a bit of a magnetic tug-of-war happening here in the eastern portion of the Earth-facing solar disk. Let's take a look at 211 angstroms from SDO. That's the last 24 hours. We'll be waiting to see what the polarity is on these coronal holes over here. Not entirely clear at the moment, and let's move to sunspots. And thanks for leaving comments, Bruce. So here's our sunspot view. Again, we did get 3143, got a name down here. Besides that, things mostly stable. A little bit of umbral growth up here in the north central hemisphere. Likelihood of large flares still somewhat remains, folks. And the most likely spot would be, of course, sunspot 3141. It's still quite large. Here's a little bit of a zoom in and SDO magnetogram for the past 24 hours. Again, mostly stable here. Let's do the SDO continuum. And how about if we add 131 angstroms for a great visible? Let's do it. There you go. That's the past 24. Next, we'll talk relativistic particles. Any protons showing up? Well, certainly not. Talking about energetic particles, our channel's an energetic particle. And if you haven't seen the Twitter page, check it out. As we lose followers on Twitter, we are convinced that Elon Musk has done absolutely nothing to fix censorship. It's just as pathetic as it was last year. So join us over there. 337 followers despite having 17.3 thousand tweets. Yeah. It's called a shadow ban. Twitter.com/smashomash. You can find links on the homepage below the video, etc., to the Twitter page. We've got an interesting featured product today, and welcome to the Neo Renaissance. And thanks for leaving a comment, TinMan1057 as well. Smashomash.com is a homepage to help us out by visiting the homepage and helping us out with clicks and so on. Thanks to everybody who has. You can find a link to the Smash Team page there as well. Smashomash.com/Smash Team. If you want to support the channel via subscription services, join at the gold or silver level. The gold annual paid-up subscription is the best value. Again, you can find our links there. Links to Hemp Lucid, links to SureMed, Instagram, the Discord permanent invite link, and so on. Once again, thanks to everybody who supported the channel over the years. If you click the Smasho merch link, by the way, there's a 20 to 60% savings site-wide. It's a great series of gift ideas. If you click the link, you will find our merch there in order of best selling. And today's featured product is, wait for it, it's the Fauci Face of Evil, Tony Fauci Fraudster products. Yes, yes, yes indeed. And by the way, today I'm wearing it, so check it out. It's always great to wear the face of evil right on your chest, or to step on the face of evil. We'll get to that in a moment. So there are the products. Fauci Face of Evil. Yes, Tony Fauci Fraudster. The face of evil always seems to display itself for you. So check it out. Yes, the face of evil has a tendency to reveal itself, and then the most blind sheeple of all just don't realize they're being lied to, despite a pattern of fraud emerging all the way back in December of 2020. So there we go. There's the face of evil Fauci bath mat, which, by the way, is like, it feels like velvet. It's so plush. It's much better than I expected. And it's just great to tread on the face of evil every day. So perhaps pick up a Tony Fauci Fraudster Face of Evil bath mat yourself. Press like, press subscribe, press share if you enjoy the content. Tell your friends and foes about the channel. We don't think YouTube is doing so. We think YouTube has us in some sort of a mysterious reach being limited mode, which, by the way, Eric Schmidt described a shadow ban back in 2011, which is why you often have to go dozens of pages deep to find a search result you're looking for because, well, big tech is trying to break the internet and instead destroying itself. So press like, press subscribe, press share, leave a comment, etc. Whether it'll do any good, whether we'll see it or not, is another story. Test it out by trying it out. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about big tech and their pathetic attempts at destroying the internet as the internet destroys them instead, because markets do not forgive nor forget. All right, enough of that. Let's get to solar flaring. And there you go. There is the GOES X-ray flux over the past 3 days. Only little tiny C-class intensifications here. This rather long duration flare occurred at 1700. Yesterday it was only a C1.3. And surprisingly low levels of electron background radiation. I mean, X-ray background radiation. Here's the last 24 hours in 94 angstroms. And it looks like that C-class flare might have come from this sunspot down here. Not completely sure on that one. You be the judge. Let us know in the comments what you think. And let's move to a star chart. If you're up before dawn, you might see the moon and Mars up there. The red planet chasing the moon across the ecliptic. That's from in-the-sky.org. Let's do a solar system forecast. We hope you enjoyed full moon and the eclipse and so on. Let's advance this 1 week. Here's where things will be in a week. The moon will be transitioning from a gibbous waning to a crescent waning within 1 week. And let's take a look at some coronagraphs, as we've got some interesting stuff happening on coronagraphs here as well. Another comet showing up. So there's yesterday from George Mason University. A bit of a CME happening there in the northwest. Doesn't look like it would be earthly directed at all. Let's take a look at today. There's today. And you can see at the end here, you can see this comet moving in down here in the south. We've got some more imagery of that, so let's switch to the stereo A view and the Soho-Lasco C3. There you can see that comet. Besides that, things are pretty uneventful on the coronagraphs. And that comet is bright enough that it's actually showing up on stereo A. Check it out. Right here you can see it move into frame. And we've got some additional coronagraph imagery for you here. Here's the last 24 hours in composite. SDO plus Soho-Lasco C2 and C3. Here's a slight zoom out. Great imagery of that comet there coming in from the south. And here's the full zoom out. Splentacular. And let's move on to filaments. So the El Teide, Spain, ground-based solar observatory showing a whole host of filaments, dozens of them. Some more moving in here in the southeast, also some in the northeast, some in the northwest. Really filaments all over the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections remains at nearly 100%. Next, the GOES 16 SUVI for the past couple of hours. Cool thing about the GOES 16 SUVI is that it includes a wide field of view. Some activity here happening around sunspot 3141. Could be a CME happening there. The wide field of view shows great CME activity but less detail than SDO. And here is the greater detail and narrower field of view of the SDO. That's the past 24 hours. Looks like there could be some instability starting up in this region. That looks like the most interesting spot to watch for the next 24 hours. We'll be streaming it today on twitch.tv/smashamash. Twitch.tv/smashamash. Next, moving into bonus features. The surface charging hazards here are minor. They are moving into the Central Pacific Ocean at the moment. Here is the GOES electron flux for the past 3 days. It did crater as forecasted. Those are measured by the GOES 16 and GOES 17 from their geosynchronous orbits at about 22,500 miles of altitude. They're measuring it at the F flare. So there is the relativistic electron forecast model from NOAA, expecting a little bit lower levels here. No argument there. There's the 1-year graph to put it in context. Next, we'll show the F ionosphere layer, which, by the way, is showing some huge low-frequency anomalies over the central Atlantic, central western Atlantic, the central eastern Pacific, and South America. So you may be able to see the low-frequency anomalies happening there. Surprisingly, low-frequency ionosphere. So if it's not obvious on this imagery, that's okay. We'll show the anomalygram as well. So here's the anomalygram, and you'll see these enduring red regions right here. Huge low-frequency anomalies also over the South Central Pacific Ocean. Those are pretty serious ionosphere anomalies. There's the latest image, 11:15 Universal Time ionogram, 11:15 Universal Time anomalygram, and now suddenly swinging to high-frequency anomalies in the central Atlantic and over South America. Continuing on to show the total electron content forecast. We can't show the full Earth map because that data set is broken. We'll be showing the North American total electron content. The free electrons from about 12,500 miles of altitude down to your GPS handset. So here's the total electron content. See if we see any anomalies there. Here's the standard deviation. And here's the anomaly. That'll show you the most likely places for GPS errors, and let's move on. We don't want the video to be too lengthy. So here is the solar intensity gram. Some serious sunspots up there. There are the fields. (3141), this group down here is still a beta class for sure. Beta gamma class. And I'm not so sure that's beta gamma delta class. I think it's just beta gamma class at the moment. Here's the rock back. And here we're going to pull up some more bonus features here before we move to meteorology, as there's some fascinating forecasts once again in the realm of earthly weather. That's yesterday plus today from SDO and 3 species of ionized iron. Could be a CME happening up here as we stream the video. So check it out. Here's one of the major stories here. A tropical system about to strike Florida. Yes. We'll show the rain forecast totals, also the snow forecast totals for the U.S. here. There's a bunch of warm water in between Florida and that tropical low. And the winds are already intensifying. Let's show what we normally show here to immerse our viewers in meaningful data. There is the surface wind environment for the eastern world. Strong low here south of the western Aleutians also. Here is the jet stream environment, the 250 hectopascal winds of the eastern world. Yes, here are the jet streams of the western world. Surface winds of the western world looking like this. It seems like all wind roads point to that tropical low there at the Bahamas. Here are the surface winds of the central world, like Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And here are the jet streams. And before we show any forecast maps, we're going to show the current state of affairs with clouds and fog. As the sun rises over the Atlantic, this is the 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation satellite. You can see the day-night terminator happening there. That is clouds and fog when it's too dark to use the visible satellite. Here is our weather.gov map, and check it out. Blizzard warnings over portions of the Dakotas, large portions of the Dakotas. Winter weather warnings there, winter storm warnings, all of that pink. Lots of winter weather happening here in the northern portion of the U.S. And let's take a look at some forecast maps. First, your positive accumulated snow depth change in inches. And expecting over a foot of snow there in North Dakota. And another 8 inches in portions of California. That's your 72-hour GFS accumulated positive snow depth change forecast in inches. And let's also take a look at the pressure and precipitation forecast. Is that system expected to strike Florida and then move almost due north and then make a turn to the northeast to hit western Pennsylvania pretty hard. So some heavy metal weather coming. That's a GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. And thanks for leaving all of those comments to our viewers. Let's take a moment to pause for station identification before we continue on. That is a lot of comments. Thank you, everybody. I do appreciate that. And let's get back to the total accumulated precipitation forecast. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted. Naming news. There you can see forecasting like 4 inches of rain for portions of Florida. Also portions of Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, and even portions of Pennsylvania. That's the GFS 72-hour total accumulated precipitation forecast. Let's take a look at another model here. Here's the Euro model. And let's actually zoom out here. We're going to show pressure. There we go. We'll zoom in right to that mode there. That's pretty good. And let's advance this 3 days to see how the Euro model has these systems moving. So in 3 days, the European model has that low all the way up by the New York, up by the New York-Canada border there, moving up toward Maine. Anyway, let's continue on. Here's our NASA GOES lightning mapper. We did have some terrestrial strikes there over Minnesota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. Let's see if we have any current lightning strikes happening. And indeed we do. Some lightning there around the U.S.-Canada border there. Northern Wisconsin. Heavy thunderstorm happening there. A series of quite concentrated cells there. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. Lightningmaps.org can allow you to forecast thunder and convince the natives that you're Odin or Thor or Zeus or something like that. And let's continue on for the U.S. Doppler radar. So here's our U.S. Doppler radar map. Let's just press refresh on there to make sure we've got the latest data. Heavy precipitation striking southern Alaska. Again, we're going to focus on the lower 48. So there's where things are here for the past about 1 hour. And it looks like we've lost our maps, folks. Oh my God. Things are closing down. Oh dear God. Holy cripes, son of a beehive. We've got to reinitialize our weather maps here. All right, here we go. Here's the shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog. Here is the water vapor map. And here's your recap. Ground-based systems known as Doppler radar. They show vertical motion of water droplets in the air column. Here is shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog. A lot of low clouds over the western Atlantic here. Check it out, lots of low clouds. And last but not least, the water vapor map. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, congratulations on realizing the channel exists. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And may that solar wind be at your back.